Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear, like the fresh quarter zip my good friend Mark Ostrander is wearing, and I'm sure our friend Grant Turner is wearing something from Nike on his plane right now on his way to New Jersey for Final X, right, Mark?
Probably.
He's a guy. I love how much Nike and USA Wrestling stuff I have, and I think it is a pittance comparison to what Grant actually needs to have to do his job. How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I left one of my favorite weekends of the year to go into another one of my favorite weekends of the year, and it's interesting because you and me started doing all this really in the college season, and it's morphed into a full-time thing. We're coming up on 300 episodes here, and it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, there's some awesome weekends in the summer that have a lot of value in the wrestling world and a lot of value in my personal life.
Well, didn't you have the Beat the Streets in Chicago gala this last weekend?
I did, man. Thank you.
How'd that go?
It was awesome. They do it at this place called City Winery. It's one of the venues your son actually told me he almost chose for their wedding and reception. So we know it's first class if it was on Ben's short list, right? Really cool venue. There's an indoor-outdoor space, a lot of silent auction items, a lot of auctioned items, an awesome video that's out there circulating about what they're doing with Beat the Streets, specific stories about young men and women that they're helping. There was a kid that didn't know the alphabet when they started, and so they were able to actually, and she's like 7-8 years old, and they were able to help her. But the good and bad of Chicago is they really need wrestling to get kids off the street. There's certain parts of every state that probably it's like that, but they raised about $500,000 on Saturday night, and I'm blessed to be friends with a lot of the folks up there. I was part of the welcoming committee, I guess is the title that this year. So that was very nice of those guys to do that. I'll be up there again at the end of the month to be on the call for the Beat the Streets duels, which is between all the clubs across the country. Sure. And the National Wrestling Hall of Fame duels, which, we talk about a lot off the air, really, to me, in my mind, is the growth of the Chicago duels that we did up there at Oak Park River Forest with Paul. That when COVID happened, we tried to move it to Kansas City, and then I was blessed enough to get a call from Leroy Smith and keep it moving. But I showed Paul the group of teams we have this coming year, which we'll talk about in the coming months. But yeah, it's chicken soup for the soul. I get to see a good friend of mine who's a former Iowa Central guy. Matt Collum lives up there. Yep. So he let me go do a session with the crew at Loyola, and we had dinner with those guys one night. So it's just a lot of fun. It's a good time. So, and then my parents were in Stillwater for the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And so we talked about that briefly last week, but another great class. I think Rich Bender might be the headliner of the class in terms of probably gave the best speech. I'm sure the guy's a public speaking wizard, but a bunch of really deserving people. John Smith and that crew treat my parents like family down there. So I clearly think they deserve it, but it's still nice for them to be treated that way. And they enjoy making that trip every year. So lots of good things happening. And this weekend, there's a little tournament called Final X going on, which is fairly important. So we also are well aware that U20s and 23s happened last weekend. We want to make sure we talk about Final X, get our picks on the board. We can also talk a little bit about how our picks went last week. The one pick I know you got wrong is Bo Bartlett, but that's because he didn't wrestle.
How did that happen?
No, you just said you heard he was entered, and so
man,
I'm just kidding you. But so you want to get into the true thirds? Is that where you want to start here?
Sure. I mean, it's all going to be phenomenal. So you got to put yourself in position. So that's what this weekend's all about. And before we get into it, David, why don't you kind of explain to the people that are listening why this is so important? Why this one tournament, this one, best 2 out of 3 is so important to these kids, and how much of an easier road it is for next year to try to make the Olympic team.
Yeah, thank you. You and me nerd out about this a lot. Me about this subject in particular more than you, about how it keeps setting the table, right? But several years ago, USA Wrestling decided that if you are a world medalist, then you get to sit out trying to make the world team the following year until the finals, that you're basically already in the finals. And that was different from before. And then there was versions of it where people would have to wrestle a whole tournament. Like I'd have to win 3 or 4 matches and then wrestle you that night, or the second day of a 2-day tournament. They've now separated those. So if I win the qualifying tournament, I have some rest. There's been all different permutations of it. But what's really so important about this for America, and then you can get into the specifics, is we want to have our very best team go to the Worlds this year, because it is one of 3 ways to qualify for the Olympics. There's 3 ways to get in: through the top 5 at the Worlds, the top 2 at your Continentals, or the top 3 at the Last Chance tournament. And the Continental for us is the Pan Ams. So, and then there's also the parts where, like, if America does qualify, then we don't wrestle in the Pan Ams at that weight. So 2 other countries can qualify from our. That's a good looking mug you got there, by the way, Ostrander.
Well, I got this sent in the mail.
You got that juice, huh?
From some guy named David, and I don't know why, but I got a couple of these.
That looks good. That silver one's nice.
Thank you.
So it's really important. And I think most people understand there's only 6 Olympic weights. I was actually talking to Pritch yesterday about Sunkist and how many of their young ladies are in Final X and at the Olympic weights. And then if you qualify at the non-Olympic, if you medal at the non-Olympic weight, that puts you into the semifinals of the Olympic trials next year, unless they change the whole process. I mean, I guess they have the right to change it, but I doubt they will. So, for example, that's what Kyle Dake did in 21, which were technically the 2020 Olympic trials. And, him and JB were chirping each other on social about, well, if it doesn't matter, then why are you taking advantage of it? And, it's, well, I earned it. And, you can come and get me. And, they're just trying to hype it up, which I get. But so anyway, it's super important for these individuals. And probably the biggest headline of all this on how people are approaching this is what Jaden Cox has decided to do, which is get out of the non-Olympic weight now and wrestle off Snyder, and we will get to that here, I don't know shortly, but we will get to that. So what I have on the screen right now are the true third matches first. And these are really important because this determines who gets money, okay? Like who gets to go on trips and things like this. So without GT, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the women and the Greco matches, but some big names are in here: Alyssa Lampy, Erin Golston, Felicity Taylor, Maya Nelson. Rose Cassiope is Tony Cassiope's younger sister. I think she's still in high school. I think we were trying to talk to her about getting her in Border Brawl. So, up and coming talent. And then Diamond Guilford, Kylie Welker probably is the highlight match of the true thirds on the women's side. On the Greco side, you see some names that you've heard before for sure: Dylan Kuntz, Sammy Jones, Rayvon Perkins coming back from injury, as GT mentioned last week, Ben Provisor. Those are sort of the headline ones. Now, let's get into the men's, because this is probably where we feel more comfortable picking winners. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on these matches because we're going to go through all the Final X ones. But Suriano Camacho, I guess I'll just say this: if they both wrestle their best, I would pick Suriano. But what do you think?
I agree 100%. I think Nick has way too much experience at this point in his life. But again, this is not, besides getting the money and being able to travel, these guys are probably still hurting inside. So you just never know what kind of performance you're going to get.
Yeah, it's hopefully far enough away that you've been able to recoup mentally and all those sort of things, but it's a valid point. Fix DeSanto. Tell me why DeSanto's going to win, Mark.
Boy, I'm not.
I know you want to.
Oh, I would love to say yes, he's going to win, but I mean, this is Dayton's bread and butter freestyle, and he is so extremely good at it. Austin's never beaten Dayton, so I have a hard time seeing him make that jump in freestyle. Maybe if this was a more of a collegiate match, I might sneak in Austin, but I'd say Dayton's probably a favorite here, probably by 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that close. I mean, I think like DeSanto has improved greatly, but is one I think where he's still not caught up all the ways on bottom, and Fix is really good on top. So I mean, freestyle can get out of hand quick.
Yep.
So McKenna Kolodzic, to me, that feels a lot like Suriano Camacho, where if McKenna wrestles his best and Colo wrestles his best, I think McKenna just is saltier, more experienced, and probably a little better right now.
Agreed.
So Sasso Pantaleo, to me, this is a really interesting match. Pantaleo got pinned in the first round of the U.S. Open by Jacob Butler, came all the way back through, but he couldn't make the team because Zane was already on in Final X.
Yep.
But, got this far. Sasso had Tyler Berger beat and got beat with in the last 8 seconds of the match. So this is a massive clash of styles, both physically. It's Ohio State versus Michigan. It's long versus short. It's attack versus counterattack. It's guys that like to wrestle on the mat versus guys that didn't like to wrestle on the mat in college. I'll take Pantaleo. I mean, I think that's the safer pick because he's older, more experienced, is ranked at the world level. And, I had him on the pod. I texted him a couple weeks ago and just told him how impressed I was. And I don't know Sammy Sasso, but I really like Alec Pantaleo, so I will pick him.
Yeah, and I'm going to take Sammy just because of all the tools he has in his kit. I mean, this guy can pull things out of nowhere and score points, and I think freestyle really fits him well. So I'm going to take him for minor upset. I think Alec is the favorite probably, but I'm going to take Sammy to pull.
I think, one of the things that I talked to Gary Abbott earlier this week, and we were talking about breaking matches down more and we'll do this more with the finals, but to me, what happens when Pantaleo gets in on a head outside single? That's probably going to decide the match, right? Because Sasso doesn't sprawl a lot. He likes you in on his legs. I used to like that. It didn't bother me if you got to my legs as long as you got to my legs the way I wanted you to. And Pantaleo is really good at not getting stretched out. First of all, he's not that tall to begin with. Second of all, he's built like a tank. And he's also just actually good at wrestling and finishing shots. So how that position goes and how it's called, because a lot of times, they'll do that hook back. And then if I hit the roll, do you make it look like a crotch throw, or is it my put you on your back? Is it 2-2? Is it 2-2-1? Is it just 2-0? How many bricks get thrown in this match? I think there's a lot of those. By the way, these matches start at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central. The regular Final X, the 2 out of 3 start at 1 or 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. 3 mats. I don't know the order, but all of them will be Greco will be a mat, men's will be a match, women's or freestyle will be a mat, and women's will be a mat. And then it's 6 Central or 6 Eastern, 5 Central will be round 2, and then round 3 immediately after that. And then if you're a dork like me, you just go get the UFC pay-per-view, and then you don't have to leave your house the whole day. So,
okay.
All right. So this Chenzo O'Toole match is fascinating to me. It's sort of old school, new school. Chenzo wrestles really well out at the U.S. Open. O'Toole got behind 9-0 to Nolf and then, kind of won the second period, so to speak. He's clearly, I think, he's got to be one of the favorites for 2028 with like Nolf and David Carr. If you're looking that far ahead for the 74 kilo spot, the weight fits his body perfectly. He's not killing himself to make it. He can actually get bigger and stronger. He's still young where he could grow. Two sort of opposite styles. Keegan really good at scrambling. Chenzo really good if he brings you up in upper body. How do you see this match going?
This to me is a lot like the 70 kilogram match, David. I think Keegan has too many tools for Joseph. I think he's going to find a way to score in different places that you may not see coming right now. So I would take Keegan in this match.
Yeah, I'm biased because I know Keegan. He was worked with us on our event. He's a Missouri guy. He's been on the pod. I think Chenzo's style actually matches up good to wrestle with Keegan O'Toole because one of the things Keegan is similar to Sasso in that you can't shoot lazy shots, right? Like the corner will get sat, you'll get cradled. You won't just get exposed, you'll get pinned. Well, Chenzo doesn't leg attack a lot, and he leg attacks a lot. When he does leg attack, it's on the edge. Like he'll try to get you to the edge and then shoot you off. And I think also Zeke Jones and company are smart enough to know taking a lazy shot on a Keegan O'Toole in the center of the mat is not ideal, right? Yeah. So I'll take O'Toole, but I think it's a fascinating match. Ringer against McFadden. Full notice here, Ringer's actually stayed at my house. We're really good friends. So I'm going to pick him, but I think McFadden is improving greatly at the PARTC, and he probably has the training partners are really interesting here, right? Because like Ringer trains with like Miles Amin, and David McFadden trains with Jordan Burroughs, so they both have really good guys around their weights to work out with. Ringer came really close to beating Marsteller last on the extra shot clock point, which is probably a whole podcast in itself. So I'll take Ringer in a close match. I think he generates more offense than McFadden, but McFadden's really crafty. He's the kind of guy that'll let you kind of push him to the edge and then ole you and get you to make the step out or hit you like in a head pinch or chest wrap or stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Derringer, but I'm gonna say it's not gonna be very close. I'm gonna say he's pretty much gonna dominate. I thought he looked about as good as anybody in the whole tournament 2 weekends ago, David, when he wrestled. I know he came off an injury, but that was the best I'd seen him wrestle in probably 2 or 3 years. So I think he's still building on that. So yeah, I'm gonna take him.
Okay, the last match is Colin Moore, Nate Jackson. And I think the last time these guys wrestled was in Coralville because this match stuck out to me because Nate Jackson was winning. Colin Moore came back and won. And then Nate Jackson the next day posted, "I'm not wrestling back, and I don't owe anybody an explanation why I'm not wrestling back." And at the time, he was on the Princeton coaching staff, which I thought was a very interesting stance to take because I will say this. So I think one of the great things you did at Iowa Central was your kids wrestled hard on the backside. You didn't have kids, once their dreams were crushed, once they couldn't win it, your kids didn't melt. And if you're a leader, you cannot melt. Now, he lost in the first round to Tanner Sloan, but needed to make the national team, so he came back through. Otherwise, I don't think, that would have even happened. So Colin Moore's beat him the last time. To me, Colin Moore was pretty beat up against Machiavello in Vegas. He looked healthier in Colorado Springs. I think he'll be even healthier here, and I'll pick Colin Moore.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Colin Moore's he's one of those guys that, he really thought he was going to lead America in the worlds this year. I know he thought that in his head. A lot of people did. So it's going to be interesting to see where his head is and where his focus is for this one match. So I think he's a better overall wrestler than Nathan. I think Nathan's phenomenal, but I think Colin Moore is more focused on what he's trying to do.
Well, this will be a distance control match, right? Like
Yep.
Jack Jackson's going to want to wrestle in space and blast W. I think the first time you feel that, it's hard to not get hit in at once. Like I made a bet one year that Zane Rutherford would get blast double by Le'Veon Mays for the first takedown in the finals. And then I doubled the bet and said Zane Rutherford would tech him after that. And both things happened because, I watched Mays. Like, if you haven't felt it, you just haven't felt it. And you got to feel the setup too. And like, familiarity helps the person, on defensively. So it should be an interesting match though, for sure. Okay. So let's go to the final, the 2 out of 3s here. All right. So again, this is on, USA Wrestling has it, Flow has it. We just pulled this up because it's a little bit bigger to look at. So talk a little bit about the Greco matches first. Again, this is probably GT's wheelhouse more than mine or yours. I'll just make some comments. You can jump in. I think some of the names that people are familiar with, like Ildar Havisov, who's been on, several world teams, Olympic teams. Sancho was the guy that I had in one of those matches where they didn't know who was winning. Pat Smith is a guy that previously had beaten Kamal Bey and is down a weight. Kamal is wrestling Kakinyu, who I talked to the Poway coach. He's training out there. He's like 40-something years old, just got his citizenship. Bey beat him really badly at the U.S. Open. A lot of these are rematches. Alan Vera is a guy. I'm a Zach Bronigal guy. He's from our area, so I'm rooting for him. But I think Vera is the favorite. Joe Rao is the favorite. Colton Schultz is a big favorite. Just quick to mention, Sunkiss Kids, 7 athletes in the finals. 1 Greco, 1 men's freestyle, 5 women's freestyle, and I think 4 of the 5 at least are at Olympic weights. So pretty salty. I was talking to Pritz the other day, and by the way, Gary Abbott, when you watch this, if you need somebody to do interviews, well, I guess 25, help your boy get out to Final X. Do the interviews afterwards. So shameless begging. So the women's matches. So first thing to note, I was literally on the phone with Gary yesterday, Mark, when it came out that Maroulis has an injury.
Yep.
So the women's will only have 9 of 10 matches. She filed everything appropriately on time, proper procedure, all that stuff. I did not ask him what the injury was because I don't want to know, because then if somebody asks me, I can honestly say I don't know. Not sure they would have told him anyway, or that he would have told me. But anyway, so some interesting matches here, like Dom Parrish, world champ. So the Olympic weights here are 50, 53, 57, 62. It's basically the even numbered match, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 1. Okay, the first one.
Yep.
So for Sunkiss, Dom Parrish, Helen Maroulis, Kayla Miracle, Forrest Molinari, and Blades are all at Olympic weights. And Jimenez is with them too. Jimenez is a huge underdog at in this weight with Hildebrand.
Yep.
But, conceptually, they have all 6 young ladies in the finals of this weight class, of this tournament. So, again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I think a couple interesting matchups here. Jen Page down to 59 against Beck. She gave Miracle a really good go last year in that special wrestle-off that we talked about pretty in depth. I think that's a fascinating matchup. The 62 matchup, I literally was talking to Pritz, and he was telling me, I said, the girl that, or the young lady that Miracle's wrestling, how strong and physical she is. And he told me Miracle was box squatting 415 sets of 3. So she's a lot stronger than she looks. She's doing 3x her weight. So that's another clash of styles, right? Like Miracle wants to get your hands on you, work that sweep single, work that fireman's. And Aduga wants to be in space and hit that blast double and be physical. I guess a couple of I think the matchup that probably most people are fascinated about here is Blades Gray, right?
I think so, just because of how easy Kennedy was able to control the match last time they wrestled. Gray coming off having, twins a year ago, if not even a year, probably 9 months ago. So, but like we had talked previously, David, I picked Kennedy to win at the
U.S. Open.
And I picked Gray to win at this just because of the experience. And she does look better now than she did 6 weeks ago. She needed that time. She needed to get on the mat, get a feel for it again. Now you can see the gains that she's making. So, but I think 68 is a really interesting weight. That's going to be, I think, one of the best weights for women's wrestling at this tournament. I think it's just going to be a nail biter. I think both of those women are phenomenal.
They are. Bruntel has been on the pod, and I've had several conversations with Forrest. But Bruntel's moved up. She's up at that weight, and she's wrestled a lot of 65, and I think a little bit of 62. Forrest is big for that weight. Like, she's yoked, and really strong. The thing, I think the thing that held her back, like the year I was able to do the World, she didn't shoot. Like, she was losing and didn't shoot. It was almost like Dayton against Nashon.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good at forward pressure. They're really good. When they're ahead, their style's perfect. When they're behind, it's almost like a football team that runs the ball way more than they throw the ball. Yep. And you're down 3 touchdowns. You're like, you cannot get 6 yards at a time with the play clock going. Like, you got to get bigger chunks and get out of bounds kind of thing.
No, I agree with everything you said there, David. I just think, Emma, I'm just really looking forward to seeing how this match plays out.
I think the one thing that Forrest does really well, which goes directly into what you're saying, Forrest will hand fight the hell out of you, right? And she will snap you and get you tired and be the bully. And Emma's she'll be there for it. Like, she's not going to be afraid.
Yep.
So I think it favors Forrest. I think she's just a bigger human being. Like, that weight class is better for her. Like, I don't know that Forrest could make 65, and I know Brunel could make 65, and so 6.6 pounds difference. I don't know if it'll matter that much, but it could for sure. So I'll just tell you my picks very quickly here. I would pick Hildebrandt, Parrish. The other match, I guess I'd pick Jakara. So, even though Houck is like the one that was sitting, I'll pick Helen when she comes back. I'll pick Paige, Miracle, Velty, Forrest, Allure, and I'll go Blades. So right now our two opposite picks are I've got Blades, and then it's you, and I've got Blades and Pantaleo, and you've got Gray and Sasso, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other disagreements on the ladies' picks?
No, I think Kilty and Velty is going to be an interesting match. I think Kilty could win that match, but I've got to go with Velty at this point.
Let's do this. How many of these? Which of these go 3?
Oh, so, I think. That's a good question. I think 55 goes 3, David.
Okay, I would agree with that. I think 59 could go 3.
65 goes 3. I think 76 is going to go 3. I don't know why, I just do.
No, I can see that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably it.
So even though you like how Brunel matches up, are you assuming Forrest is going to win 2 straight or Brunel's going to win 2 straight?
I think it's going to go 3.
Okay, so
I think they're both going to get 1, yeah.
Okay, I
think Forrest wins it, David. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I think Emma intrigues me. I think she's going to make this more interesting than a lot of people think.
I'm not disagreeing. So you have 55, 65, 68, 76 going 3.
Yes.
Okay. I think 62 is fascinating. It reminds me a lot of you got to get hit by the blast double once kind of thing, right? So, I mean, I think Miracle wins. I think she's one of the best wrestlers in the world, but she might have to come from behind to win that match.
He's done it before, though.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Okay. So, all right, here's where I would think our level of competence is probably the highest. All right. So you and me talked about this off air. I don't really want to just go, okay, I'll take so-and-so and how many matches. I want to talk about, let's do it this way. You take the odds, you take who you like, and you tell me why they win, and I'll make the argument for the other guy.
Good luck.
No. I mean,
that's hard. That's going to be hard to do because there's some of these matches that I can't put my head wrap around any way that they're going to beat the other person.
Okay, well that's fine. I mean, you're gonna have to do it on the evens. So
that's fine.
All right. So I assume you have Gilman.
Gilman in 2.
Explain to me why Gilman wins in 2.
Zane has not been to the top of the mountain. Gilman has many times. He's wrestled for world championships. He's been, he placed at the Olympics. He's been there. Zane is just getting his feet wet trying to do this. You're not going to walk in to where Gilman's at, and half his teammates are his teammates at Penn State right now wrestling for the club team. He will be ready to wrestle. He's going to be, that to me is going to be one of the most lopsided matches, I think, personally, David, in this whole 10, 20 guys wrestling. I just think he's way too experienced for Zane right now.
Okay.
Zane's impressive.
Here's the argument for Zane.
Okay.
He's the only guy in the freestyle side from the Illinois Wrestling Club, so their coach is not game planning for 9 different guys, and they don't have any. It's not like Penn State where two of the matches are wrestling against each other. It's just Brian Medlin and those guys making a game plan for Gilman. Second thing, Gilman's last tournament was at 61, and he didn't win, and so maybe Gilman's having a hard time making 57. Zane's been wrestling more frequently. I think his confidence level really jumped in December at the World Cup. First of all, he got the call for the extra match over Suriano and beat 2 high-level opponents there. And he talked about the gratitude of wearing the USA on his chest and all that stuff. He also came back against Suriano where, frankly, I think he got hosed on the call. Like, it was absolutely terrible. They didn't even challenge it. They wouldn't even accept the challenge, like at least look at it, because they would have won the challenge, and that's a whole nother conversation. Medlin had a really interesting point. He goes, frankly, it's probably better for Zane to be down by 1 with a minute left than up by 1 with a minute left, which is interesting, and that's a whole nother conversation. Like, how soon do you try to shut it down and versus when you have to keep attacking? All that being said, I'm picking Gilman, but I think there are arguments where also I think Zane's pretty strong, and you have to be strong to wrestle Gilman, right? Like, the secret to, not the secret, but a way to not get beat by Gilman is you got to stay out of that underhook, right? Like, he wrestles a lot like the Iranians. And so Medlin's a complete nerd when it comes to studying film. And, actually told me about these foreign websites where you can get matches of Iranians and Russians that are just not on YouTube kind of thing.
Yep.
So they'll be prepared. I think Gilman's the favorite. I'm picking Gilman. I'm picking Gilman in 2. But there is a path. Okay. I assume you're picking Gilman in 2 also. Like you said, lopsided. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to say one thing. Zane is, of all the other guys that were at this weight, Zane is probably right there at the top in strength because he is absolutely put together right now. And so he's put a lot of time into really building himself into a 57-kilo stud athlete. I just think Thomas Gilman's just still a level ahead of him and probably everybody else in America.
Well, you have to remember, Zane wrestled 133 in college, so this is 125.4. So, I mean, like, he should be fairly big for the weight. Okay, so you're taking the left side of this on the so I've got Vito. So the argument for Vito is he's on an absolute heater streak, going back to the NCAAs, the semis and the finals. He was very honest in saying an NCAA title was not what he thought about growing up. We both know his dad, Vogar. He was a junior college wrestler, junior college coach. He was a world medalist. Vito, I think, has the best leg lace of anybody on the men's team for sure. And it's a killer. Like, he's also really good. There's a bunch of things he's really good at, but he's amazingly good at getting it on the way down from a shot. And he's really good at knowing where he is on the mat and turning you so you can't get out of bounds. So, and he just came off the college season. He's built for freestyle, and the length of Nahshon will not give him as much problems because he's long. That's the argument for Vito. Go tell me how Garrett's going to win.
All right, Nahshon. For Nahshon to win this match, matches. Number one, well, I'd like to get one right away. The way he's got to beat him, number one, he knows him. They train together. They're both Cornell guys. So that's a big plus. So he's had a feel for Vito, which is
helpful.
Actually really important at this time. Nahshon probably had the best tournament of anybody in this lineup at the Open. I mean, he was
not at the Open, at the World Team.
I've been not at the Open, at the qualifier to get to this spot. The guys that he beat and the way he beat them was just phenomenal. So he's got that chip on his shoulder right now. He's going to have to use that. I'm like you. I have to take Vito, and I think Vito wins in 2 matches. But I think Nahshon can make this a lot closer than people think.
The other argument I would make for Nahshon is his gut wrench game on top is really, really good. Like, gut wrenches are harder to get 9 of in a row like a leg lace is, but he can turn a lot of takedowns that are 2 into 4 or 6 or 8. And the other thing, which I think is interesting by both of these guys, like Vito, if he does get taken, or like he goes quad pod, he will not probably stay up in quad pod. Like, he'll go down, because these guys that stay up in quad pod, especially like when there's 30 seconds left in the period, if you get gut wrench on there, it's 4 because it's feet to back because it was never a takedown. And so 4 is like 4.5 because of the criteria. Okay, you got Yanni, I got Nick Lee. Go.
This is going to be an interesting match because I've got so much respect for Nick Lee. I think Yanni, the way he's going to have to beat Nick Lee is he's going to have to chain wrestle like he's done in the past. He cannot. It can't be just a single move and finish, because that's probably not going to happen with Nick. He's going to have to open things up. This is going to be, I think, really high-scoring matches. I think both guys are going to put a lot of points on the board. I just think Yanni's a little bit too seasoned right now for Nick. I know Nick beat him last time they probably wrestled, if I remember right, and that was what,
it's 100% the last time they wrestled, which was at the Olympic trials in April of 21, so just over like 26 months ago.
Yep. So I think Yanni, I think Yanni's a favorite, but I think this is going to go 3 matches. I think Nick's going to push it into 3. I'm not going to be totally surprised if Nick wins the best 2 out of 3, but I think Yanni is in a good position to be able to win 2 out of 3 matches here.
So I think the argument for Nick Lee is, it's an interesting one, right? Because he barely beat his teammate, Bo Bartlett at the U.S. Open, and then came through and won in the finals. He's had the time off. There was no world team trials at this event because Yanni was a medalist. Penn State's as good as anybody in the country and maybe the world at game plans. And there's 2 additional advantages that Nick Lee has. He's felt Yanni, and Zane has felt Yanni a bunch. Okay, now everybody evolves, right? Like, when Yanni's attacking, he's way better than when he's kind of waiting to counterattack you. Like, I was a guy that waited a lot sometimes to counterattack, and as these guys get better, like, that worked against guys who weren't very good, and then Jerry Abbas got a hold, like, I better shoot because this is not going to end well. So Yanni's figured that out. He got over the hump last year, getting a world medal. I have 2 picks that I think are going to shock people. I'm going to take Nick Lee to win. I think it'll be 3. 3. Oh, 3. I'm getting there. Yeah, 3 for sure. I feel like this could be a Yanni Zane kind of thing where there's a bunch of bricks and a bunch of challenges and a bunch of controversy because these guys are both so good at scrambling. That could be in that thing where they each have a single leg up in the air on the other person. Like, I feel like this is going to be must-watch TV. Like, this is – I might just put the jinx on it and one guy leg laces the other guy twice and the match is over. But the other thing is that I think Yanni will get ahead in at least one of those matches, but Nick Lee is going to go. Like, he's a guy – he can pass the ball. He can be down to – he's Mahomes, right? Like, he can go – he's Josh Allen. He's those guys. They can throw the ball, dink and dunk, get out of bounds, stop the clock, ground it, and make the match longer. So that's probably my I'm sure there's I have two picks that are, I think, going to surprise most people. That's one of them. Okay. Zane Rutherford Berger. The argument for Zane, I think 70 is like the perfect weight for him. I think 65 is going to be really hard for him next year. Clearly, he's not going to go 74 when Dake and Nolf are in that room already. He medaled last year. He got over the Olympic trials sort of fiasco where he got pinned while doing a leg lace, which ultimately prevented us from putting anybody on the team at that weight. And I think he's just a better wrestler than Tyler Berger. You know, he's won more at every level of Tyler Berger. He won more in college. He won more in high school. He's won more internationally. I just think he wins.
Okay, my case that I'm going to make for Tyler Berger is that he's hungry right now. He's, you know, he thinks this is his time, so he's going to go out and try to take advantage of that. Can he get it done? I have a hard time seeing his path to getting it done just because Zane is fundamentally so solid that he's not going to give Tyler a lot of positions that he's going to be able to score in. So I think Zane probably wins it in 2, but I think Tyler Berger can make it interesting.
I think Berger's also coming off the momentum of beating Sasso late, right? And I think the other thing is Berger can try to lull Zane into doing what he wants. And what I mean by that is Zane's tendency is to go forward a lot anyway. That's what made him successful. Berger's really good on that back knee drop double. And if Berger can get Zane to chase him to the edge and zombie walk him versus stay in perfect stance, he can get hit with some shots. Berger can get some shots. Now, can he do that multiple times in a 2 out of 3 setting, right? Like, I might be able to sneak you once on that, right? But that might not be enough to win one match, much less 2 out of 3. And, I don't think Zane needs Casey Cunningham or Kale or Varner or anybody else or Cody in his corner to go, hey, if you're going to stalk this guy, stalk him in stands. So I agree with you, Zane in 2. So far we both have Gilman in 2, Vito in 2. We have a split at 65, but 3 matches.
Yep.
And we both have Zane in 2.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you have probably maybe one of the easier things. You get to defend Kyle Dake.
Oh, no. It's not easy. Last time, Nolf made it really interesting. I just think Kyle's one of the best in the world. Doesn't matter where he's at. So he's just a winner. And I think we're going to find out how much better he's gotten since he went to Penn State. I think this is when you're going to actually see it, David, because he's been in that room. He's been training with David regularly, Taylor. Just the guys he's been able to get a feel for. The style of wrestling that Penn State does, with everybody that's now in that Olympic or, RTC room. I think Kyle Dake wins it in 2, David, but I think it's competitive. But I still think you're going to see there's still a gap there. And I don't think Jason's actually strong enough yet to eat into that as much as, it may be a 2 or 3 point win, but you're never going to be in doubt. That's the thing about Kyle. You can keep it close at times with him, but you're not that close to scoring. You may look like you have a shot, but you really don't.
That's a great point. So Dake is one of these guys, like when Dake and Taylor were both in college, like if they both wrestled you, Taylor would beat you worse than Dake did, and people go, oh, well, okay. But then Dake would just beat Taylor. Like the whole comparison thing didn't work. Well, like, if GT beats me by 10 and you by 15, but you can just keep beating me anyway, like it doesn't matter. I think the argument, I'm going to disagree with one thing you said. I don't think we're going to see how much Penn State has helped Dake yet because he's wrestling a guy he's so familiar with. Like I think this is a guy that's in the room. Who knows who works out with who, right? Like, because they've got, in no particular order, Levi Haynes, Facundo, Mitchell Messenbrink's probably there, Starachi's there, Brooks is there, plus they're working out with the Kales and Casey's and, everybody else's of the world, right? And I'm sure they're flying guys in and out all the time as well. I think the argument for Nolf is a couple things. Number one, he's got to figure out a way to win one of the first two matches because I fully believe he's in better shape. Like, he doesn't seem to get tired. Dake, even when he wins, looks like he's tired at the end. Now, he might just be doing the Jim Brown and, acting like he's tired every time he gets up and he's fine. But the body language of Nolf is better late in matches. And a third match is going to be more about cardio because there's not going to be a ton of rest. Okay, if we think a lot of these are going to go 2, then there's not going to be as much rest for that third match. I think the other thing is Nolf, like, Dake beat the crap out of him at the Olympic trials, like just man-child him twice. So, like, if you man-child me, like, man, I don't know how I'm going to beat that dude. Well, if I get to work out with you, if I get to see how you train, if I get to feel you, if I get to understand where your positions are, doesn't mean I can beat you, but I can close the gap. Like, if you beat me by 10 and we wrestle again, you can't beat me by 20. You can only beat me by 10 or pin me, but I can make it closer. And I think every day that happens, you and I have talked about this a bunch off the air, familiarity helps the person that's not as good. I think Dake gets it done, but I think it's going to be harder than people think. I think that, Nolf's got a lot of confidence. I think the one thing we don't know is, does Nolf actually think he can beat Dake? Like, maybe Dake just beats the crap out of him in the room. If he does, then this is not going to be close. If he doesn't, then there you go. So
maybe this is just another maybe, David. Maybe Kyle doesn't really wrestle much with Nolf in the room because they're the same weight. This happens at a lot of rooms. Yep. And the other thing for Kyle that I didn't mention is Kyle can pick up a 4 or 5 in a heartbeat from his feet. He is so strong, and he can get into a body lock and drop you right on your head. He's done that to Nolf before.
Yes.
And if that opening's there, he's going to take it, and you're not going to be able to stop it. He's that strong. He gets into that body lock position, you're done.
Well, this is one of 2 Nittany Lion Wrestling, NLWC club matchups. And usually, I'm sure all these athletes have a coach breaking film down with them, right?
Yep.
So it'd be fascinating to know, like, is Coach A working with Dake and Coach B working with Nolf? It's going to be interesting to see who's in the corners. It's going to be interesting to see if they actually really coach against each other, or it's more just like toweling the guy down and like we've established ahead of time we're not going to coach because somebody wins and we want the whole coaching staff to be on board for that person winning a world title. Be fascinating, right? Okay, you get to pick. Wait.
I get Mark Ostrander here.
I got Burroughs. So
yes.
I'm just going to say GOAT.
Okay, that doesn't explain how he's going to win 2 out of 3.
I think he's wrestled Marsteller. He knows how to beat him. I think Marsteller's improved a lot. Marsteller's actually taken a match off of him before, but Burroughs has socks, and when he pulls the socks up, it's a wrap. So, and I also think that whenever Burroughs is down and he tugs on those socks, like he's getting a scramble, he's getting a takedown.
So you're saying that Burroughs is going to win because he has socks and he knows how to pull them up.
I'm being sarcastic. I'm just saying.
I just want to make sure
he's a winner. When it comes down to it, he's about as clutch as it gets. And a lot of times he doesn't have to be clutch. He wins by a lot or he's out ahead. But the few times he's been behind, he hasn't won them all, but he's probably won as much as anybody. I also think that Burroughs, this 24 is it, right? So, like, I think I can tell you an argument why I think he doesn't win, but I think he wins. Go ahead.
Sure. And I think for Mark Stellar to win, he's got to go out there and do what he did last time when he wrestled him. And he didn't win, but he did win one match. So he's got to keep it close. Can't give up distance out there because of Jordan's speed and able to hit that double. But Mark Stellar is like running in, trying to do a double leg on a wall. He has such a low center of gravity. It's hard to get under him, number one. And when you hit him, it's like hitting a wall. I mean, he is so solid. Can he beat Jordan? I'd say probably not, because he has beaten him one match, but to beat him twice is going to be a lot harder to do. But I could see this possibly going 3 matches. So I'm going to predict it goes 3 matches. But I think Jordan pretty much picks his way through it and is able to find a way to win, whether it's a counter shot off of something that Mark Stellar does. But I don't think you're going to see Jordan Burroughs just doubling Mark Stellar all over the mat. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the other argument for Mark Stellar is A, familiarity, right?
Yep.
B, Burroughs isn't hitting that double as much anymore. C, Mark Stellar is better in the upper body stuff. Like if he gets in the over-under positions, he's got that arm spin. He's got other stuff. He can make it into you're on the shot clock more than I'm on the shot clock kind of match. And so he's got a path to victory. It's not crazy. Okay. The other thing is this, like, as you know, Mark Stellar is still getting at the age where most people generally peak. And I say this knowing, you know, this is blasphemy, because like one of my good friends in the sport is Randy Couture, who didn't even start fighting until he was 40 something, you know, but I also wonder how good Randy would have been if he was fighting at 28, you know? So where Burroughs is, you know, at the age where most people think you're on the downside of the hill. There's obviously exceptions. Okay. But just if you're doing a bell curve, Mark Stellar's on the good side of it. Okay. You get to pick DT.
David Taylor. The reasons David Taylor's going to win is basically there's probably only a few reasons he's going to win. Number one, to me, he's probably the second best wrestler in the world right now.
Who's the best?
Russia 97 kilos.
Sajalayev. Okay.
Yes. I mean, that's just my opinion. David is just taking it to a new level. And I think, you know, people are saying Aaron Brooks is the real deal, and I'm not arguing with anybody. He is an absolute beast. But I think David's going to actually enjoy this match more than a lot of people would have, you know, think he is going to. He wants to prove, and when he wants to prove something, he usually goes out and does it. So I think it's going to be not as close as a lot of people think it's going to be. I just think David's a better wrestler. I think he loves these moments, the spotlight. I think he's rooting for Aaron to be the best that he can be, because it's just going to show how good David is. I just think David's too skilled in too many positions. I think Aaron's going to have a tough time, because I think at the qualifier, the Open, I think Aaron got down a couple times during those matches to guys. You can't get down by 2 or 3 points to David Taylor, because you're not getting him back. He's not going to allow you to get him back. So, you know, that's something Aaron's going to have to make sure he doesn't get down early against David Taylor, because once blood's in the water, we know David's going to go after it. So I picked David in 2, not as close as a lot of people think.
I think this is where we fundamentally disagree. Okay?
Fundamentally disagree. Okay.
So a couple things. It feels like there's a lot of parallels to 74, right? With Dave Knopf, like same, yep. Both of them in Nittany Lion. You got the old Lion versus the young Tiger. Brooks is coming off the college season. Okay. We've seen this a bunch where these guys that come off the college season, they're in better shape. Taylor hasn't wrestled in about a year. Okay. So it's hard to stay in fight shape and match shape. You can lift, you can cook pans that got copper in them. You can do all this other stuff. It ain't the same as wrestling. Okay. It's just not, you know that. I know that. Like, you don't have to be an Olympic champion to know that. familiarity again, right? Like DT's got that head ankle series. He's really good in scrambles. But when you feel guys that are good at scrambling, or you know the principles of the scramble because you both had the same coach, right? That helps you close the gap. Taylor is sort of the same age. Well, he is the same age as Dake, at least same year in school. So again, I don't think those guys do another quad, where I think Brooks does at least one more quad, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
Brooks is really good with that lefty underhook. That's the way that Yazdani Charati beat Taylor when he beat him. It's the way he gives him trouble. And this is, when I say fundamentally disagree, it's the last sentence you said. I think Brooks can come back. Okay, because I think he's in better shape. It's the same thing. I think the younger guy's in better shape. Okay, I mean, I could look dumb as hell next week on this. Okay, I'm taking the two matches that we've disagreed on. I got the dogs, you got the favorites for sure. You got world champions on it, So, but I just think Brooks has this calm to him that's like sort of terrifying. Like he's just not worried. Okay. So, all right. So I'll take Brooks in 3. You have Taylor in 2.
Yes.
Okay. I got to take Mike.
You are taking Brooks in 3, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to probably go 8-2 on these picks, and you'll probably go 10-0.
No, I'm just saying that.
No, that's who I got.
Okay.
All right. Mike Mock. This is hard for me because I just don't think he wins.
Well, I had said this earlier that I'm going to have a hard time.
Yeah, no, but he's okay, but he's bigger. Okay, he's stronger. He won the U.S. Open. Zahid is not a 92. He's not even a big 86. Like he walks at like 86, 87. Zahid has had gas tank problems. If Mike Mock gets to the third match, I think he wins. And again, he's at a club where they don't have a million guys in Final X. So, that's going to help. I mean, there could be a potential coaching problem for Zahid where if Forrest Molinari and Zahid are wrestling at the same time, Mark Perry's got to pick which mat he's on. And he's the lead coach for both of them.
Yep.
And that's not awesome. Okay. Where North Carolina State or Wolfpack RTC doesn't have that issue. So I'm picking Zahid in 2, but that's the argument to why Mike Mock wins.
Okay. The reason I think Zahid wins is that he's quicker. I don't think Machiavello's ever seen this kind of quickness. He's going to attack below the knee, and so he's not going to get stuck underneath. It's going to be going in and coming out. I just think he's a better fundamental wrestler than Machiavello. But, I mean, it's different when you get up into the upper weights. Zahid's wrestled these lower weights back into the 78, 79 kilos, 86 kilos, where there's a lot of movement, a lot of reaction to what the other guy does. I don't see how Machiavello opens up this match to make Zahid have to work real hard to get real tired, because he's not going to be shooting nonstop. It's just going to be trying to stay positioned. And Zahid, as quick as he is, he's going to be in and out scoring points. So I'm going to take Zahid fairly comfortably in 2 matches.
Kind of like how he beat Colin Moore. Yep. Yeah, I think there's an interesting tangent to this. If Zahid doesn't win, okay, does he go wrestle for Mexico? Because like Miles Amin was never going to make the U.S. national team. And he goes and wrestles for San Marino. And now he's an Olympic medalist. He doesn't even have to go through a challenge off process over there. Like Austin Gomez just went down and beat the crap out of everybody. So, and Zahid has never lost to Miles Amin. So like if you're Zahid, you're going, maybe I just need to get to the Worlds and the Olympics.
Yep.
So there's a very interesting tangent on what happens there. Okay, this is a fun one. You get Snyder, I get Jaden. And we can probably shorten this because I don't think there's not a path for Paris to beat Gable. I don't think either one of us see. At least I shouldn't say that. I don't see any path for Paris beating Gable.
Well, who do I have?
It doesn't matter.
I got
have
Paris.
Gable.
Yeah, I got a path for Paris to beat Gable.
All right, go ahead. Go Snyder Cox.
So
I was just trying to shorten it up because we're coming up.
No. I got Paris. He's the man.
All right, you got Snyder. Go ahead.
Kyle Snyder. He's bigger. He's done it. He's one of the top guys in the world. The last time they wrestled, he won 2 matches in a row.
We were there.
We were there. I think he's in Jaden's mind that Jaden has to actually believe he can beat Kyle, and I'm not sure he's there, because once he feels Kyle and once Kyle takes him off the mat and gets his first step out and starts bullying him a little bit, I don't know where Jaden's mind's going to go. Kyle's been on a mission since he was in high school. This is what he wants to do, and he's never altered it. He is going to go out there and physically just try to beat the crap out of Jaden in every way that he possibly can. Jaden's a heck of an athlete. I just don't see the path for Jaden to beat him, David, right now. Could he in another 4 years? Possibly. But I just don't see the path right now. I think Kyle's head and shoulders better than Jaden. And that's hard to say because I really like Jaden as a person. I think he's one of the class people we have in wrestling. And his family's phenomenal. His mom's
the best.
The best. So, it's not that I don't like Jaden.
No, you're picking a guy who you think is going to win matches. We get it. It's not personal. You have him in 2 or in 3?
2.
Okay. All right. So here is the counter argument. First of all, let me say this. Snyder might be the most underrated wrestler in American history. Like, if you look at his medals since 16, and he had to beat Varner to make the team, who was an Olympic gold medalist in 12, it's stupid. He's medaled every year. Okay? So he's got, I think he started in 15. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's a lot of medals. Okay? Here's the argument for Jaden. Number one, he wrestled Snyder his style the last time at the Rudis event. Okay? I don't think he cared. They both got paid really well. I think he wanted to I don't think he didn't. It's not that he didn't want to win, but I think he just wanted to get the feel and not try to necessarily beat him. Number two, these guys wrestle all the time at World Team Practice. I know this. The matches were really close. Now, practice is different. T-shirts and singlets are different. Okay? Yep. No doubt. Jaden, I think the stronger thing, Snyder's going to be stronger than him, but I think the strength gap has closed because Jaden is now committed to 97. I saw him at Coralville at the World Cup. He told me how much more his lifts were up. It was a significant percentage. Okay. I think Jaden's got really good guys to train with, which is different than last time. He's at Michigan. He's not got like high school kids rolling into the Olympic Training Center. He still has KJ with him. He's got Sergey with him. He's got Sean Bourmet with him. Okay. To me, this is a very typical. This is like the Lakers and the Celtics. There's a fast break guy and there's a half court guy. And if it's a fast break match, Jaden can win. If it's a half court match, Snyder's going to win. And it's easier to slow a team down than the other guy to speed you up. It just is. So I'm going to pick Snyder in 3. I think the gap is closer than it was last time. But I also think this, like, Jaden had a choice, right? Like, he could have stayed at 92. He's miles ahead of Machiavello and Zahid. Okay, like, he's just too big for Zahid and too good for Machiavello. And he would medal at 92. He's done it every time. I think maybe one year he didn't at 86 when he was cutting weight a lot, but like, he would medal and that would put him in the Olympic trial semifinals, and then he could build his body up for a year. Okay. He's made this decision, and whether you think it's crazy or not, you have to give, like, he's committed to this. He's committed to being the best. He wants to wrestle Sajalayev. Okay. Now, whether that's a good decision or not remains to be seen, but this is not a guy running from competition. This guy is running directly into competition. Okay. I have the super difficult task of saying why Gable Stevenson will win. He's pretty good at wrestling. He's beaten Paris every time he's wrestled. He's the most exciting man in entertainment. We're not going to get to the U20s or 23s, but Christian Carroll took a singlet down and got yellow carded for the exact same thing Gable did, and then said, I saw Gable do it. So that there's Gable privileges. I mean, I think short of getting caught in a fireman's carry in 2 different matches, you know, I think he's just now here's Gable's weakness. He doesn't turn guys. And we don't know if he's any good on bottom. Like, we actually know he wasn't great on bottom at the Olympics because he got gutted twice. Okay. And he's not going to wear Paris out when he gets on top. Like, that's not what he does, like what Wyatt Hendrickson did to Paris. The other thing is, I'm not sure Paris is 100%. Wyatt Hendrickson, it looked like dang near broke his ribs in the semifinals of that tournament. But I think I know we're doing this exercise. I think we're both going to land on Gable wins in 2. And I would say it's 2 techs.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's Paris's way to win this, David. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. He's going to go out and have to be more physical than Gable. I don't know if that's possible because Gable is probably one of the baddest people on the planet. So for him to win this, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out a way that he could win this match, David. And you gave me this phenomenal opportunity to try to figure it out. And I just, you know, I've never seen him actually take him down with a single leg or double leg, or, you know, they've wrestled probably 10 times in the last 3 years. Some of them have been within 6 points, but that's not that great. I think Gable is on a mission. So I'm going to take Gable in 2, and I'm going to go 2 techs.
Oh, so you're really
I know I made no arguments for him to win. Paris's best thing is that he's been wrestling for the last 4 years straight. Gable took some time off. So maybe there's a little rust there. I don't know.
He looked really rusty at the US Open. It looked like he forgot how to get in a stance and everything else.
Not so much. I don't know how he's going to do it, David.
Yeah. So GT, by the way, Gable's got some awesome Nike singlets coming out at Final X, so that'll be fun to see too. Okay. All right. So I don't know that we have anything else to cover or any more time to cover it. So we will try to get to you. I think next week I'll actually be doing this from Tulsa. I'll be at Junior Duels.
Okay.
So we will definitely talk Final X. We may or may not get to the U20s or 23s because the team. So the other thing that people need to understand is based on who wins these, there are certain athletes that will automatically be on the U23 team if they lose.
Correct.
Okay. Well, but the U20 team is set.
Yes.
The 23 team is not set based on ages and stuff like that. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine about it. Like at 61, I think Vito's still young enough to be U23s, as an example. I don't know that, but I think he is. So
here's my question, David. If Vito wants to wrestle U23s and seniors, can he do that?
I don't think so.
Okay, just it was just a question.
I also don't think he would want to. I think like if you're at that non-Olympic weight, right? Like, so Vito is going to have a really hard time making 57. Okay. Like,
agreed.
There's at least one time this year we're making 133 was hard. So 125.4 scratch is going to be difficult. So I think Vito winning and then medaling at the Worlds, and I'm not saying this because I think it matters or that I care or have an opinion, but the general consensus is the non-Olympic weights at the World Championships are way easier to medal at because that's where funding goes, like Grant talked about, and it's also how you qualify for the actual Olympic spots. So if Vito can win and then medal, that's huge because he doesn't have to even mess around with 125.4 at all. He doesn't have to go to the US Open in December, okay? He just doesn't have to do it. And, you know, like he'll probably wrestle a shorter schedule, right? So there's a lot of ramifications for a lot of this stuff, okay? So this is a whole nother subject, but there's some guys that have just gone into RTCs at other schools that I'm fascinated to see. 2 guys at 61 kilos, Mikhail McGee and RBY. I think those guys could be really, really good if they want to wrestle for a while. So, All right. For GT, who I don't think had Wi-Fi, is going to send me his picks, but I'm sure they'll all be right. And for Mark, whose picks are always better than mine, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching and listening. See y'all next week.